Hello, my name is Werner Konexel. I am working for the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, and I have the pleasure to discuss with you some insights, some recommendations, how you would address the preparation of a RED strategy within the readiness preparation proposal. And for this, I think this is one of the most important and strategic and central pieces of the readiness preparation proposal that has attracted a lot of attention by participants, by civil societies. So this is an issue that we're looking at how we will address the drivers of deforestation, the underlying causes of deforestation, and what kind of options we will choose in order to have success over time. The RPP as a proposal and the RED strategy as the final outcome out of this process, which the use of the 3.6 million, would try to address systematically the drivers of deforestation and degradation. In the RPP, it's very important. We ask it right at the beginning an assessment, a preliminary assessment on how the underlying causes will be addressed within the RPP and throughout the readiness process. That will be asked right at the beginning of the readiness proposal. A 10-pager assessment will be done. Now, what is a RED strategy? The RED strategy will identify and discuss the options to reduce emissions or tackle the potential drivers. And those options should be done in the best cost-effective way, lowest opportunity cost possible, and in the most sustainable long-term way possible, because we would not like to reduce emissions immediately and immediately after they will go up again. And also the RED strategy should take into account additional benefit and identify and discuss potential environmental and social risks associated with the different options. The social and environmental assessment will also be treated later on within the strategic environmental and social assessment, which is linked, of course, to the RED strategy. The RED strategy is not necessarily a new paper. It will build on existing strategies such as the forest strategy, such as infrastructure strategies, such as plans that will combat deforestation in different states and provinces, etc. But the RED strategy would now analyze the trade-offs between different options and identify the priorities in order to reduce emissions. So it's not the focus on hectare conservation of forests. It is much more on the focus on reducing emissions from deforestation degradation. So finally, it would identify then the investment needs, the priority interventions that will be needed on the policy and investment side, but also the priority areas, those areas that have the highest threat, that have the highest carbon content, that have the highest poverty reduction potentials and biodiversity. Those priorities you will define in the RPP. So how to approach this RED strategy? First step, we recommend that we will analyze the different strategies available. So you're looking at the forest strategy, if available, infrastructure plans, economic development plans, etc., and analyzing the stakeholders that are involved in this. The next step would be then analyzing if those existing strategies do have a serious impact on the deforestation and forest degradation, and identify the analytical gaps that have to be identified and have to be elaborated throughout the readiness process. Finally, it would be identifying the different strategy options. The options that would be discussed in this paper and the effectiveness, cost, feasibility, co-benefits and impacts will be discussed throughout with the relevant stakeholders. One of the very interesting plans is the Brazilian Deforestation Plan, which is carried by the presidency and promoted by different ministries, subnational entities, focusing on the combat of deforestation, less so on emission reduction. But the most interesting bit is that it was carried and by a broad consensus of stakeholders that included, made it a common vision possible in order to advance with this. As one of the examples, I would like to show you on how the discussion about the most cost-effective and the most feasible options in order to reduce deforestation, degradation, maybe we can show this in a cost curve that we show you here. If you see at the bottom end, control fires seem to be very effective as they cost very little and the probability of success is very high. If you look at the other end, the marginal costs are very high when you're going into forest industries, forest plantations, etc. But now, if we integrate not only the opportunity costs, but also add transaction costs, institutional barriers, political costs, social costs, etc., these ranking might be then becoming completely different. And that's why we will have to look at all these trade-offs that we have been talking about in order not only looking at the costs, but as well at the roadblocks and the governance issues that are involved with these options that we are seeing. There have been much done on opportunity costs and the potentials, and there are different options and different cost curves as they see. The FCPF has issued already a guidance note on how to address this. What are the different cost options? What are social costs? What are individual costs? What are private costs? What are opportunity costs, etc.? And this note is available for you in order to orient yourself. So these opportunity costs would include opportunity costs, implementation costs, transaction costs, political costs, institutional governance, etc. Costs that are different options here that we have to see. And of course, these costs are different as every single country. So it wouldn't be one cookie cutter fits all the countries, and we have to define what kind of capacity building, governance improvement we'll need, and it depends on where this country is in the readiness process. It will depend on the size of the countries, on the progress made, and also on the types of drivers of deforestation that are viable. Looking at maybe one example, looking at Mexico and taking this out of their submission, there is maybe an interesting bit on where and what area, for instance, Mexico would look at, and what are the priority areas for interventions, looking at areas that are under threat, looking at the area where the larger forest density, carbon density is, etc., and where the most feasible programs already in place. Now, coming to my last slide here, and maybe issuing once again the questions that we try to answer within the REDD strategy context. REDD will be needed to address dynamic land use change, cost and governance issues, definitely, in order to overcome the challenges that we are facing. Of course, this is a map of East Kalimantan, and one of the exercise, for instance, would be in every country identifying these areas and where we would have lowest opportunity costs, and these vary by opportunity costs and land, carbon density, and threat of deforestation, where we would really focusing in, where we would likely have the most success. Now, can we really identify the high priority interventions with low barriers to implementation? And this is a question that we would like to answer during this exercise within the readiness process, coming together in a consultation to a consensus with the stakeholders. What are the priority governance concerns within these targeted lands and REDD strategies? What are the governance issues that will have to be addressed in these priority areas over time? And what are the capacity building and investment needs, as I said, as one of the most important things to know to qualify the feasibility of these interventions? And finally, what are the potential risks, environmental and social and economic costs that are involved in these plans? So I would like to end here my presentation and looking forward to a lively debate with you. Thank you.